Hey y'all, it's Sarah from Denver Data Web. Today we're going to talk a little bit about metadata. We're going to discuss why metadata is important and some best practices for writing and creating metadata as well. Metadata can and should be thought of as a welcome sign for each web page on your website. This is especially important for transactional pages such as service pages, any pages where you're selling products or services, your contact page, and then of course your home page as well. Metadata can be broken down into meta titles and meta descriptions. If you look here, the meta title is the blue part that's clickable. And the meta description is a little bit about the page below it. These can also be called title tags for the meta title and also snippets for the meta description. So we'll alternate those words in and out throughout the tutorial. All right. Well, metadata only really has a small direct effect on your SEO. There are a number of ways that metadata affects SEO indirectly and also overall. The most important way that good metadata can have a positive effect on your SEO is by increasing your click-through rate or your CTR. If you look here at our search query, you can see that some of our search terms have been bolded within our meta description. That helps to get the search engine users' attention and then also show them like, hey, this page has quite a few of your search terms in it. If you click on it, you may find what you're looking for here. When that happens, when you do get more clicks because people are going to your website, that's your CTR. It would just be the number of impressions you have on a web page compared to the number of click-throughs, so click-through rate. When your click-through rate is improved, your SEO is also improved as a direct result. While keywords are important for metadata, it's also important to note that readability is another thing to pay attention to. And we'll focus on that a little bit more throughout this as well. But one thing I do want to note is that it's important that you're not stuffing keywords into your title tag and that also your meta description is written for readability. One thing that some people who are familiar with metadata may ask at this point is, why our meta description here begins with a fragmented sentence and then also ends with an ellipsis. Other people may be asking, if we're getting away with this fragment, why can't we just write a bunch of keywords in our meta description? Those are very, very important questions, and I actually picked this snippet for a reason, just because it leads perfectly into our best practices on writing and creating meta descriptions. All right, so as far as meta descriptions, well, it's very important to create strong keyword optimized descriptions for each page. It's also important to note that search engines have the authority to use all, some, or none of your crafted snippet. It all comes down to the search query and the relevancy by page. So if your page content more closely matches the search query, Google can choose to build its own snippet based on that. In the snippet we were looking at, in the last part of the video, it was actually pulling from our content to match my search query. That's also yet another great reason to have optimized content on every page of your website. So we're going to talk about writing meta descriptions from your keywords. My personal process is actually to download the existing metadata using Screaming Frog and then to clean up the spreadsheet so I have only the information I need. If we look here, you can actually see it lets me scroll. I have some of the indexability information as well as some of the H1s. I'm not going to use that right now, but I do like to have that information on hand. What we're going to look at right now, though, is the existing meta descriptions for the page, and we're going to see if we can optimize them just a bit more. Even though this one's at the top, we're going to look at this one first. I like to make the keywords that I'm focusing on in bold. The reason I wanted to look at this meta description first is because it's already pretty well optimized. I wrote this one recently and I included the keywords as needed. So if you look here, you can see that all of these keywords are included. There's web development here. There's also web development services in the same place, and also custom web development, all within one part of the sentence. And you can combine keywords that way. That is just fine. The way Google sees it within the meta description, it's still part of the search query, regardless of whether or not it's combined or on its own. And for that reason, just because there is limited space here, it is optimal to combine those keywords as much as possible. We also use web developer here, and the word Denver on its own. The name of our company does have Denver in it. I think just based on space, I chose not to have the name of the company here, so instead I used the word Denver. And page by page, I do like to change that up a little bit, especially when you have a company name that has keywords in it. It can sometimes just be helpful to switch up how you're using that and if you're using that. The company name is a very important keyword, but it's also important that you change up your strategy, not only for A/B testing, but just for variation in content. Now let's look at this other meta description that does need a little bit of work. I have implemented a formula here to make sure that I'm tracking the character count properly. When you download from Screaming Frog, it does give you a character count. However, it does not continue to track your length. So you can enter a pretty quick formula that allows you to do that. I've highlighted some of my keywords that I want to use, as well as some keywords in italics that we can use if there's room to do so. And now I'm going to go ahead and update this meta description to include more of the keywords that I want to use and still have it be readable. All right, so I updated that meta description. It's still within length. It's still within that 155 to 165 character limit. And it includes all of my keywords that I wanted to use, including these kind of bonus keywords at the bottom. Well, we mentioned that creating readable, well-optimized meta descriptions is very important. Arguably, the most important aspect of a meta description is your CTA, or your call to action. Your CTA, or your call to action, is meant to guide the search engine user about what to do next. So in our case, we suggest that the user contact us or call us. That's our preferred method of conversion. However, if you are running an e-commerce site, you may say browse our selection of blank, or you can also just simply suggest visit our page to learn more. A CTA is a very, very important aspect of your meta description, especially for transactional pages like these are. So the last part of our metadata tutorial is going to be on title tags. Title tags might seem easier at first just because they are shorter, they don't need to be written in full sentences, and they typically use fewer keywords than you would include in a meta description. However, title tags are very important because you do want those to stand out as much as they can in a search engine results page. So for that reason, you do want to pick out the cream of the crop keywords, the keywords that have higher volume, that are very searchable and very transactional, and that also encompass the entire page. So instead of having some of the more specific keywords that we used with the meta descriptions, these are going to be the very high level, not exactly broad, but specific to that page, but to all of that page keywords. So if you see here, many of the keywords we have for these pages are very similar. And so we're going to use that to build these out. One thing I noticed with these two existing title tags is that one of them is very short and one of them is very long. A lot of why this happens is that the platform that we use does auto-generate some of our title tags. And if that happens in your case, it's actually not the end of the world if you don't have the resources to rewrite these, because as you can see, they are very optimized. However, they can be a little longer or shorter. So one thing that I would do, I wouldn't necessarily implement these directly as I update these, but I might go in and play with the page title or something like that so that the auto-generated meta descriptions fit how I'm editing them here. For the sake of explanation and just for the video, I will edit them now just so you can see how I do that. However, in the end, I will have our interface do that for me. All right, I went ahead and edited those so that they are about the right length and that they have the keywords needed. One thing I do want to show is that I, in a way, implied more than the 2 keywords I used here. I did Denver SEO agency and digital marketing company. If you look, that doesn't actually encompass all these keywords exactly, but they are very close together. And for that reason, Google will likely index all of these 4 keywords, even just the way I wrote this here. I did use the name of the company and the name of the city, even though the name of our city is in our company name. That's just fine that I do that. It's kind of just doubling up by using the city name in 2 different ways. If you'll notice here, you'll notice I did omit the name of our company just because these words are quite a bit longer, and I did want to use as many keywords as possible. That is just fine. You do not have to include your company name in every title tag, especially if you have a longer company name like we do. It's more important that you're using keywords than necessarily fitting your company name into each and every title tag. I was, however, able to use all of our keywords, which is great considering these are very long. I combined 2 of our keywords here and then used another keyword along with the company name here. One thing that's very important to note is that you can avoid using filler words here and instead use an ampersand or even just eliminate certain keywords. You don't have to say like in Denver or anything like that. Keep these short, sweet, to the point, and keyword rich. Thank you so much for watching our video on the best practices for writing and understanding metadata. We will also have a blog to pair with this video that goes into a little bit more detail, which we will have on our website at denverdata.com/blog. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube and visit us online at denverdata.com. Thank you so much.